Superflex.com. Dynasty rookie rankings or rookie draft right here. Unfortunately, we were talking about this. There's no good site to like have a good rookie draft, especially because defensive players are not in sleeper yet. So we are just going to do it free ball. So you have to listen. This kind of works out for those people on the podcast who can't see what we're talking about, and we just like don't explain it anyway.
We're going Washington Commando up in this bitch.
Fuck yeah, we are.
Hell
All right,
yeah.
the number one pick of a Superflex rookie draft will be Joe. Joe, who's being picked?
It's me.
Yeah, who's gonna pick?
I just like to thank my parents and everyone that believed in me.
Jesus.
Oh
sure.
shit, dude. I don't know. I'm going Bryce Young. I'm doing it.
Dude, Billy said we cannot complain, or we can complain. We just cannot change it.
You can't complain. You just can't change it.
I'm going Bryce Young, man. He's a gamer. You put him on the field, he's going to score points. He's going right into a starting situation, which we assume he's going to hold for the next 3 to 4 years. In a super flex, that is what I'm looking for, is a quarterback that can come in and make plays right away. And I love it.
I think the number one thing is he's going to Houston, in my opinion. I don't know what your guys' opinion is. And I kind of like Houston more than Carolina. Carolina's set up for I want to say win now mode in quotations, because that's their like they signed a bunch of veterans and got an offense there. But Houston has a chance to build something special here. And so Bryce Young, in my opinion, is going to Houston. And I personally think CJ Stroud's the number one pick, but we'll no changebacks.
No, I like CJ Stroud. I just think, I would honestly, if depending on landing spots, Anthony Richardson could be the pick here. He's a fantasy just monster waiting to happen. I just think Bryce Young is going to have the best position going into the league.
I just think CJ Stroud's going to outshow and be the best Ohio State quarterback of all time in the NFL.
I think long-term CJ Stroud's probably the answer. The flash in the pan, the Tyler Murrays that Joe hates so much, that's a Bryce Young. So
yeah, not a fan.
He'd take him. He drafted Kyler Murray too, so
I'm going quarterback number one though.
That's
I told you running backs are dead, man. I told you running backs are dead.
Well, this is also a super flex draft, so it's not shocking.
Billy,
true. What do you want to do for pick 2?
Obvious, Bijan.
Oh, really?
Contingent that he goes to any of the other 31 NFL franchises than the one that we previously stated.
No contingencies here.
No,
I don't even care if he goes where Derrick Henry is. Don't care.
I actually had Bijan at 3 just because I'm not personally in any super flex leagues anymore. I wouldn't mind being in one, so holla at your boy if you got an opening. But I came into one with some really bad quarterbacks, and it was a rough time. So I had Bijan at 3 because I think CJ Stroud, Bryce Young 1, 2. So that makes Bryce Young or CJ Stroud our number 3 as well. So we go Bryce Young, Bijan, CJ Stroud to start off with, and I think that's pretty obvious if in whatever order you guys, other people think. So.
I think in every super flex league, this will be the top 3 picks. I would be very shocked. There might be an Anthony Richardson believer out there that might think differently, but like most leagues, 98% probably this will be the top 3.
What he did at the combine was impressive, but there's still some raw nature to Anthony Richardson.
So if he does go to Indy,
raw.
If he does go to Indy, they don't have anybody. He's starting right away.
They have Gardner Minshew.
I don't know. Yeah, I know.
Minshew's not it.
Minshew worries me a bit. Not because I don't think they'll start him, but if Anthony Richardson goes number 4, it's going to be hard pressed for the fans to want to watch Gardner Minshew play and not just see what Anthony Richardson is right away.
I guess they're too far from Florida because Gardner Minshew, has the alligator power or something, some sort of swamp power. I was hoping he'd go to like Tampa and really just harness that swamp power again. But personally, I think Gardner Minshew's the better quarterback to start off with the season and probably will be for the majority of the season. I'd like to see some of these quarterbacks sit behind people. I'd like to see I talk about this all the time. We have the Jalen Hurts, we have the Mahomes situation. We have all these other quarterbacks who get thrown right in. No offense, Joe. Justin Fields has not looked great his first couple seasons.
He's phenomenal. He doesn't look great. He looks phenomenal. Josh.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, he had a couple good games. You're right. 2 good games. But anyway, we'll get into it.
Jalen Hurts was a second-round pick
last year.
Well, but he was also a second-round pick. Like, of course, he needed more time to develop than the 4th pick in the draft. Like that. Okay. That would be.
I don't have a list here, but I could find a bunch of first-round quarterbacks who have been complete busts, and I'm sure that Anthony Richardson would fit that criteria.
Well, okay, I just don't know what that proves.
All right, let's move this along. We got 2 picks. Let's go, Billy. Who you want? Or Josh? Who you want?
It's you. All right, we got CJ Stroud. You're up number 4.
Oh, CJ Stroud. damn. All right, I'm gonna do it. Anthony Richardson's number 4.
That's the right.
I can't let him slide. I wanted to go
That's what I
somewhere
have as
else,
well.
but yeah, he's too much of a monster.
The thing is even if you don't necessarily get much production this year because, say, Gardner Minshew does play most of the season, you're getting the future. And you're going to see what they can mold and make him into. And although I think Indy might take a white quarterback, not that they don't want Anthony Richardson there, but I just could see them taking Will Levis. Don't know what that means about them, but that is what it is. But I don't know if Anthony Richardson goes to a place where it's like Oakland. Woof. That is worst case scenario. So I hope that he lands somewhere that they plan to actually use and develop him, because if not, he could be on that long list of busts that Josh wants to read off.
I'll find it later. Don't worry. Number 5 is up to Billy. What would you like?
Okay. So I think I'm just going to go chalk and go with Jahmyr Gibbs here. I don't know if I love that, but he's really won me over. I was not a Jahmyr Gibbs fan. Joe can attest to this. I've complained about him a whole lot this entire season of college football. But I think I can see the pathway to him being Austin Eckler. And I think that is what my brain has convinced me is best case scenario. And so for that reason, I'll go Jahmyr Gibbs in hopes that that's what he becomes one day.
My biggest fear about Gibbs is that he was on Alabama and that was good because of Alabama. That's my biggest fear of him right now.
Yeah,
I do agree.
Brian Robinson did not look dynamic when he was on Alabama. He looked good. I mean, he got yards, but Jahmyr Gibbs just looks dynamic as hell. My comp for him is Jamal Charles, which I will take to the grave with me.
I like him as well. It's actually where I have 5. And then my 6 is Jackson Smith-Njigba. However you pronounce it. Cannot pronounce it.
JSN.
I don't know why I always get JSN. Should have done that. I think he's the first wide receiver off the board in NFL drafts, and I think he's the first wide receiver off the board in rookie drafts. Even with the injured year last year, I think he's just too prolific. I'm really glad that he didn't end up in the same draft as Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, Marvin Harrison. Ooh, that guy.
These next crazy. Like 3 or 4 to me, like just don't scream like, oh yes. I'm more of.
You know who does scream? Oh yes.
Who's that? Jay?
That's my pick, right?
Yeah, it is your pick.
Oh, okay. It's even interesting.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with Mr. TCU, Mr. Kendre Miller at 7 because he is my third.
You and this Kendre Miller, man.
This is my third back in this class. His legs are tiny. He runs upright, but he forced a missed tackle on 1/3 of his rushes in college. I mean, every time he's on the field. Look at what he did for that offense. He made them except for, obviously in the championship game. But the dude looks amazing. He's a home run hitter every time he hits the ball. He didn't have a whole lot of pass usage, but he averaged 8 yards a catch on there. So I think an NFL team is going to slot him right in there. If there is another guy in here that has a chance to be a true bell cow, I think Kendre Miller could be the guy.
Interesting.
I don't know where you have him, Billy, but he's a little bit down my board. And also we were talking about how running back, he flipped a page, so that's not good. But
no, I'm writing him down on a different page from my list.
I'm writing it down.
I had him in the second round though.
But regardless, we for a place or an NFL that's dead on running backs, why do we have 3 running backs going within the 7 picks without a I don't know.
Because we live in a small town in the Midwest that just got wrecked by a tornado, and we have hope.
Sorry. We've talked about this. So my bad.
Jeez. The reason I do like Kendre Miller, Joe, and I do kind of agree that there is smoke to this potential fire, is that as soon as Zach Evans got off that team, Kendre Miller, did he miss a beat? No, he excelled in the same offense. The offense where Zach Evans and him were sharing the touches. He was able to go in there, claim that number 1 spot, have an incredible year, lead that team. I mean, you could say Max Duggan led the team, but Kendre Miller was the biggest part, I think, of that offense. And I think you're right. I think that there is definitely a ceiling to where he is the bell cow back of this draft. And that's why I'm down on Zach Evans, but we'll get to that in due time.
I just want everyone to be aware of this guy. I mean, I'm looking everywhere. I've seen him go in the 3rd round. I've seen him go in the 2nd round. I'm taking him in the 1st because the dude looks like an absolute stud to me.
I could see late 1st, but I feel like we're reaching here in the middle of the round. But anyway,
you're reaching.
All right, but
Damn.
No worries. Billy, your pick.
Well, damn, I can't believe the position's dead, but here we go again. I'm taking Zach Charbonnet with my next pick in this.
He loves him.
Look, in my opinion, this is the bell cow back. I think we're looking at another Josh Jacobs situation here. He did do some receiving work in college, but Chip Kelly did not choose to use him that way. It was more just a bell cow back. He did have a couple injuries during the season, but overall, Zach Charbonnet was a fantastic running back. He was great at Michigan. He transferred to UCLA, was great there too. And for that reason, even though he was there 5 years, which scares some people, I think Zach Charbonnet is the guy. So I'm picking him.
So we're just drafting multiple Tyler Algiers in the first round now. Got it. The next pick, which should have been the pick probably
Zach
at 7.
Charbonnet better than Algier.
Okay. We're going to go with Quentin Johnson, who should have been picked a little bit a while ago. Not the best stats in the world, but I think consistent. I think he's going to be that guy. He's not Garrett Wilson. You're not getting Garrett Wilson here. I'm just letting you know it's not that like that this year. It does not seem, at least. There's some hope in the later rounds for a cheap wide receiver, but I think you pay up for Quentin Johnson. I think he should get a pretty good signing here. And yeah, probably second wide receiver off the board. Might be Addison. One of the two.
Yeah. I mean,
my fear with Johnson, and Joe probably knows this too, my fear is that he's Mike Williams, which Joe thinks isn't an NFL player, but he is a productive wide receiver for the Chargers, even though Joe doesn't think he belongs in the league. But I think that's what we're looking at with Quentin Johnston. Productive. Still.
Yeah. I love me some Quentin Johnson.
Consistent.
The size alone in this class is something that you have to invest in. I mean, we're looking at guys like Hutchinson and Bryce Ford Wheaton just to get some goddamn size in these upper rounds because it's ridiculous. Quentin Johnson really, I mean, he has a chance to be the next big thing. He has a chance to be Mike Williams. He has a chance to be less than Mike Williams. He's always open. I don't know. I like him, but I'll let someone else draft him.
Me too.
Jordan Addison would be my pick here on this next one. He's instantly going to go on a team and at least be the 1B, I would have to imagine. I see a lot of Tyler Lockett in his game, and if he goes to a place where he can kind of absorb those underneath routes and occasionally get a long one, that's what I'm looking for there. So good value on him.
Yeah, I've liked Jordan Addison. Obviously, he made Kenny Pickett who he is. I mean, Kenny Pickett would not have been a first-round draft pick if it wasn't for Jordan Addison. So Kenny Pickett should probably be signing a couple of royalty checks to Jordan Addison from his NFL contracts that he's to make in the future. But I digress. Jordan Addison, great wide receiver. I was a huge fan of him before the season. I wouldn't say he necessarily knocked my socks off this year with clearly the best quarterback in college football, but at the same time, I think this was just hey, let's not ruin my career with an injury kind of year, even though he did suffer a wild injury. But I don't mind him here. I probably won't take him, but I wouldn't mind trading for him if he drops past this.
That is wild. I was actually wondering about Addison with him being on, Caleb Williams, the GOAT of all time for college football. At least that's how everybody's talking about him. Why did Addison do so bad or not so great?
Well, partially it was the injury they suffered against Utah. It was a brutal ankle injury. And just seeing Lincoln Riley during that play, he didn't even look over in Jordan Addison's direction. He just kept figuring out, well, I don't know, what am I going to do here? I was like, your star at wide receivers on the ground writhing in pain. Whatever. That's a Lincoln Riley thing. But partially because there was a lot of mouths to feed. That was the biggest issue. He just spread around the ball too much instead of focusing on Addison. He was really the touchdown guy, which is not what he was with Kenny Pickett. He was mainly the throw and run guy.
Well,
plus there was no chemistry. I mean, they just kind of went right into playing with each other with very little chemistry there. So.
That is true.
Yeah, that too.
That's why sometimes transfers work, sometimes they don't. And I think that was his goal, was for it to work. And obviously it wasn't the most successful. He could have been easily the number 1 wide receiver off the board. So especially with JSN out. Yep, your pick.
Man. Well, we're going back to the wide receiver because I can't let him drop any farther. That would be Zay Flowers from Boston College. Anytime you're watching Zay Flowers tape from Boston College, you're going to fucking pull your hair out because the quarterback there, Phil Jerkovic, is awful. Terrible terrible quarterback, but somehow Zay Flowers persisted. And therefore, I mean, just seeing what he was able to do on the little bits of tape that he was able to put out there, just incredible. I don't love that he was a senior, but at the same time, I don't mind it because I think that he's going to be able to get into an offense right away and at least fight for the number one role, if not be a very, very solid number two.
I don't want to pick him, but I think this is where Will Levis and the Hendon Hooker conversation starts happening in a Superflex. But I'm going to go with Tajee Spears because he's my Joe's Kendry Miller and Billy's Zach Charbonnet. I think he's going a few picks later at this moment. I don't think you're going to have to reach, but if you have the last pick of the first, say you won your league or you traded for the winner of the league's pick, that's the play. Get that running back that has the upside, and you have the last pick of the draft, and that could hit pretty well. There's nothing really behind Bijan other than Jamar Gibbs, and then some random names that might hit on the board. So no offense to your guys. Yeah,
you're right. I like Spears. I mean, what do you have? What do you have? 20 touchdowns last year,
1,600 yards, and 19.
What he did against USC was basically like a war crime. Like 346 yards, 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns.
It's always hard for me to pick a running back from a small school, or I shouldn't say small school, not one of the big schools. But at the same time, what he did was super impressive, and I think that it continues in the future. Hopefully, he goes once again. Once you get into these are all at this point pretty much people that are running backs wise that are going to be drafted in the second round or later. So they could go to any team. They could go to a good team. They can go to a bad team. He could step right in on Kansas City and be the lead back over Pacheco. Like you never know.
Probably too old for Joe. I think he's like 23 or 24. It's about time
his
Joe's
career is basically over.
Silver Fox, fucking cougar over there.
Silver Fox. Oh boy! All right. Well, that wraps up the first round. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 running backs in the first round. Pretty great for a league that hates running backs. We're just that Mississippi town, just holding on strong.
Yeah, I said Midwest. I stayed away from the Mississippi thing, but
Sorry, I forgot about the tornado
Texas
already.
Was that Meridian? Something like that.
Guys, we're not talking about places tornadoes have destroyed. We might be that place on Friday.
Jeez. Go for it, Joe.
Yeah, the weather literally says, and possibly a tornado.
And possibly a tornado. It's just that time of year. Joe, what do you got?
I'm really mad you didn't take Will Levis because realistically, he should probably go here. Yeah. I'm going to take Jalen Hyatt just because.
Nobody wants to draft Will Levis.
Right.
I'm not doing it either.
The wide receivers in this round are so, or not even in this round, in this draft, are so all over the place. I could see Jalen Hyatt all said and done being the best wide receiver in this class based off what he does. He reminds me a lot of Devonta Smith and kind of how he plays. So I would absolutely take a shot at him at 2-1.
Yeah, Joe, that's a really good call with Devonta Smith because that's kind of what you're looking at here. I mean, some people probably say he's a one-year wonder, but I wouldn't. I mean, he was just – Hendon Hooker couldn't help himself. Jalen Hyatt was out there destroying defenses. I mean, what he did against Alabama with a bunch of NFL players strung throughout that secondary, I mean, was incredible. So, no,
yeah,
I think –
you heard in his interview, man, he said, Cedric Tillman was the one, and he kind of just took a back seat to him. And then when Cedric Tillman got hurt, he actually had a chance to get on the field more and be featured more, and he took the role and went with it. And that's what you're looking for when these guys are rookies. Did they capitalize on their opportunities?
Dead on. Joe, I'm proud of you for listening to interviews from prospects. That just warms my heart.
I have been doing my research.
I am also not going to take Will Levis because I'm not putting that mistake on any team, even if it's a mock draft. I'm going Will Anderson. If your league has decent IDP scoring, Will Anderson has every tool in the toolkit to be a Micah Parsons, to be one of these guys that's one of the best edge rushers in the league. He's going to probably go to a team that's using him as a focus. I think Arizona makes a lot of sense if they don't trade out of it. But if he ends up in Seattle, I mean, come on now, Pete Carroll with that kind of an edge rusher, I wouldn't. I hate to think of what that could end up looking like. So it's going to be Will Anderson because I think he is going to end up in a spot where he is going to be featured and he is going to rack up sacks, tackles, the whole shebang.
Yeah, I don't
love
disagree. I was gonna say I have Will Anderson a couple picks down just because usually mid-second round in Dynasty, that's about when the best defensive player gets off the board. People are pretty focused on offensive players. I think you can snipe Will Anderson early second round, and especially if you have that 2-2 pick, you got Bijan and Will Anderson. That's a great start to your draft. Potentially two of the best players in the draft. So
that is real solid.
So this is really time for Will Levis. I'm also not going to do it because I don't trust in it. I would actually personally pick Hendon Hooker over Will Levis at this point, just because if you're getting a quarterback this late, you're probably not in need of him. You're probably just getting him because he slipped this far. I'm actually doing neither of those. I'm actually going Josh Downs, wide receiver from North Carolina. When Drake May came in, he obviously did relatively the exact same thing as he did the year before, which is great. I see the consistency across the board. As a person who does not really watch college football, or at least not as much as the Manziel over here, seeing that kind of consistency across the board with obviously Drake May is apparently a great talent. So we're gonna see what Josh Downs has. But I think the best part about this is he goes to a good team that more than likely needs him. So I think he's projected kind of late first. I think he's kind of slipped into the second here and there, but I feel like wide receiver is always that position that, for one, a lot of people need, and number two, that always isn't projected to go, but just kind of there's a weird wide receiver bite around the middle of the draft each year. So Downs could find his way into one of those spots.
Yeah, Downs is really solid. My only thing I just don't know where he fits on an NFL team. That's like my only concern about him. But no, he's very talented. So
I think for a second round pick, you could do worse.
I mean, it's all upside there, and he has all the upside in the world. I'm going Will Levis here just so people don't laugh us off the planet. I don't want to take him. I hate Will Levis, but
I just couldn't do it personally.
I mean, he's got an arm. We've seen it. It's, I don't know. I don't like it.
Well, your team's got Anthony Richardson and Will Levis now. So to be honest, team's kind of set, and especially if you're super flex, like if you punted on quarterback in the regular draft that you did, landing Anthony Richardson and Will Levis to start your quarterbacks with, not a bad call.
Or say you had Kirk Cousins and Tom Brady. Tom Brady's out of the league. You're just starting to replace those guys. I think it's smart. Got Kirk Cousins, probably a Gardner Minshew type in your wings as your third. So,
well, Will Levis will start right away. Like wherever he gets put, I'm pretty sure the plan for him is to go, because
I've seen a lot of mock drafts of him slipping down the board to teams that are not ready for him to start right away, or
which is
at least
wild. There's no way if he ends up with like 7 or 8 that they don't trade. Like Tampa Bay needs to be headed up. Like Tennessee needs to be headed up if that's what ends up transpiring. But
I agree. I think that people just were scared to put trades in their mock drafts at that point more so than anything, because I don't think Will Levis makes it past 15. But I was seeing him in the 20s and stuff. Like I think Will Levis and Hendon Hooker have both been like rumored to be the Tennessee.
We're not scared of trades on this podcast. We just didn't make any because
we got argued about them.
We're manly men. We don't make
so the next pick at this point, because in my opinion, it's the last quarterback off the board in the first few rounds. It's Hendon Hooker. You saw Will Levis go. You're trying to get that.
You're just making my pick for me, or what are we doing?
Well, you picked. Oh, my bad. Sorry.
Well, you can't take Hendon Hooker, but you can take whatever else you want.
You can.
Yeah, Hooker. I'm going to keep going down my board. Dalton Kincaid is going to be my pick.
Real solid.
I think you're getting the best receiving tight end in this class. And even though we keep saying it about Kyle Pitts, if you're drafting Dalton Kincaid, you're drafting him as a potential receiving threat on your team. If you're the Giants, well, maybe not the Giants, but like a team that doesn't necessarily have a number one wide receiver, I think when they draft Kincaid, their plan is to get him involved in the offense right away, and that means catching passes, because I refuse to believe there's 2 teams that are stupid enough to draft a receiving tight end and then refuse to use them. Just the way it is.
I personally think Michael Mayer is the first tight end off the board in both NFL draft and Dynasty drafts, but I'm cool with the tight end there. I feel like this is about where the first tight end of the board goes, unless it is the elite talent of Kyle Pitts that has just been so phenomenal for fantasy starter. What was he picked like 4th overall in rookie draft?
Don't get me started on Atlanta.
I wasn't talking about Atlanta. I was talking about all the Dynasty owners who were like, "Oh, I gotta get myself some Kyle Pitts. He's gonna be great." Anyway, Hendon Hooker is officially off the board now because it's my pick, and that's where
listen. Arthur Smith, you did this. What he just did, that's because of you, Arthur Smith. I know he listens to the pod, so
Yeah, he does. He's written in a couple times actually.
All right, pick 19, Joe. What do you got? Unless you guys disagree with Hendon Hooker, but I feel like we're.
Well,
I like the Hooker thing.
Josh, do you want to make this pick? It's not yours, but
I can.
We'll just turn it over to Josh. He'll just take the rest of this draft.
I'm sorry you were taking quite a long time.
Oh, that's funny. Shit. I don't know.
Uh-oh.
He only had 9 picks on his list, and they're all
no. I don't.
Josh, maybe you should make this pick.
I will not have this guy on my team, but it's. Uh-oh. Have we taken Devin Achane yet?
Nope.
Okay, so out of A&M, and he's real fast. He ran like a 4.3.
Achane. I just didn't know how to pronounce his name. Never mind.
Yeah, man, he's real solid. I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking like Chris Thompson type of guy for him, or I don't know. He's going to be a PPR guy wherever he goes. I don't think you're going to see him take the bulk of the carries. I don't think he is unable to do that. I just don't think any team's going to trust that. So for a PPR guy, I like him this late. He's going way earlier than we have him here currently. So at his current price, like RB4, I will not be taking him. But if I can get him at this point in the second round, then yes.
It's a good call.
I don't dislike it. Billy, you're up, so I don't pick your guy.
All right, I'm gonna go Sean Tucker from Syracuse is my next pick. I think he has potential to be a workhorse running back. It's just really just going to depend on landing spot for him. I think we're looking at a 3rd round guy, so it's kind of luck of the draw whether he ends up on a spot where he's going to get used or he ends up in a spot where he's going to have to share the backfield.
He's very talented. It's a good pick here.
Something about him, if the Eagles don't go running back in the 1st round, something about Sean Tucker screams Eagles to me. I don't know why.
I don't even know who this guy is, but you're absolutely right. It just screams
Watch
Eagles.
his tape, man. He screams Eagles to me.
He's real solid.
We'll see what happens. I don't want to go with another wide receiver or running back, but I do. And it's Mr. Tank Clayton Bigsby from Auburn. Once again, consistency is what I look for when I draft rookies. Once again, not a big college guy, so he could be freaking terrible, but getting 1,000 yards in 2 seasons back-to-back with 10 touchdowns to pair with him for a late 2nd rounder, I think you're getting that potentially Antonio Gibson late in the 2nd round. And, obviously, hopefully not he gets replaced after a year kind of Antonio Gibson, but the rookie and sophomore season of Antonio Gibson.
Tank, if you're listening to this, man, I got my jersey, bro. I got scammed out of a Tank Bigsby jersey.
I'll never forget that.
That's rough, dog. I'm sorry.
Man, Tank's like the wild card of this draft, though, because, would you be shocked if he goes out and just is a complete animal? And would you be shocked if he went somewhere and didn't do a damn thing?
Part of it, Joe, is because of the name. I could just see Chris Collinsworth. Now, here's a guy.
Mr. Tank.
This Tank Bigsby. He's from Auburn. I can just see it. It feels like it's going to happen.
Based on name value alone, that bumps him up a couple spots. But.
Exactly.
Joe, and maybe really that's why he's where he's at in my rankings, but I love the guy. He's got to be drafted.
Plus,
if you want a good offense, you got to have a Tank.
The Clayton Bigsby memes are going to be flowing if Tank Bigsby ends up being anything. So that'll be a special moment.
If you got touchdowns in your heart, let it out.
Oh my god!
All right, I'm gonna go Michael Mayer at this point. I'm just gonna take him. He's gonna slot right in. I kind of get the Trey McBride vibes. You're gonna have to keep him on your bench for a while, but you're getting a studly tight end.
To be fair, Trey McBride would have been great. Well, actually, that's not true because Ertz was injured and they still never used him. So I don't know how to play with that.
That's the Cliff Kingsbury experience for you.
But Michael Mayer, once again, consistency, 800 yards in the last 2 seasons, 7 and 9 touchdowns. That's honestly some of the best stats we see from tight ends in college. So college usually doesn't have much of a good tight end. They don't use their tight ends well, I should say. But Notre Dame is a pretty good team this year. Am I correct?
Yeah,
they're pretty good.
They weren't like, Alabama or anything, but
he wasn't as good as Brock Bowers, but he was right under that.
Well, Brock Bowers is literally insane. So
yeah, I cannot wait. Josh, just prepare yourself next year because the Kyle Pitts situation is going to be right back into effect next season.
And I will literally use Kyle Pitts as a reminder.
With this Brock Bowers. I can't wait. It's going to be so funny.
You can't talk bad about Brock Bowers, dude.
I'm not going to. But if he gets drafted 4th overall and people are drafting him in dynasty leagues as the 4th pick, oh man, he does look sexy.
He might. Woo. I know. He even rushes. He's ran 80-yard touchdowns. A tight end has ran 80.
Why does he look like Christian McCaffrey, by the way?
I think it actually is.
It's Christian McCaffrey.
He just went to Georgia on his weekend.
Yeah, he uses like the Hulk serum, and he like grows a couple inches, and he goes and plays football there. Okay. Well, we haven't done an IDP in a while, so I'm just going to go right back to that and take Tyree Wilson. I think wherever Will Anderson doesn't end up, Tyree Wilson will end up, and then that team is going to be using Tyree Wilson in a very favorable situation to get you a lot of points, and I think that he belongs up here.
I'm so excited to see Tyree Wilson wherever he ends up. I mean,
he is a monster.
If you want to talk about someone who is just flipping fast off the edge, Tyree Wilson.
Oh yeah, super fast, man.
So fast there, bud. I don't know where we land on this guy, but I did watch some tape earlier, and I really appreciated it. And it's A.T. Perry, wide receiver out of Wake Forest. Looked real flashy. I don't know if this is a bad pick here, but I mean, we're rounding out the second round. You're kind of, especially unless you watch every college football game ever, you're probably throwing some darts out there. And I assume that once again, this is second plus round where he's getting drafted, maybe even the third.
He's gaining traction a lot. I mean, he's 6'4". He's a little leaner than you probably want him to be. I think you'd want him to gain a couple pounds so that is less of a skin, beanpole, but he's gaining a lot of steam. He played with a great quarterback last year as well, Sam Hartman, and they were just unstoppable. I mean, I would say that I wish he would have more receptions. It was a lot of 4 for 120 games, which isn't a problem in fantasy, but I think you would want to see him used a little bit more as far as targets go. But I could see him being really one of the surprises of this draft.
Yeah. No, I mean, Josh, at this point of the draft, just getting a wide receiver with the least bit of size is could work wonders for you because there's not much of it.
I just feel like he can run that deep ball. He can catch those over the shoulder passes. I mean, just watching some tape from him earlier today was just why have I not heard this guy's name yet? I'll be honest, I was not prepared for this draft, but here I am.
No,
spouting facts. A.T. Perry, my new guy.
You are not wrong, man. Shit. All right, I'm just gonna do Darnell Washington because he's an absolute monster. I'm gonna keep loading up on
Godzilla. Some are calling it.
Yeah. If any of these tight ends are gonna get on the field early, I think this is the guy. Just based on his size.
Yeah, I feel bad for whoever has to line up against this behemoth because they are not prepared for what they're going to have to go up against.
Yeah, this is like an athletic Jelani Woods. I mean, this is no joke here.
It's bigger.
Yeah.
I also just feel like, just from a fantasy perspective, drafting tight ends from the 3rd to 5th round, it's all wild cards. You don't know where they're going to land. You don't know what they're. I mean, I guess at that point you probably do know where they landed, but you're grabbing someone like Kate Otten and Greg Dulcich were no names. And you know who drafted them? People who just threw darts at random tight ends, because tight end is such a shit show in general. And to have someone who can put up 8 points as at the tight end position as a rookie is just so great, especially if you are that unfortunate soul who had Gronkowski or just haven't had a good tight end in a long time and tried to trade but don't want to give up your whole roster. I think just getting tight ends is always a good move and around this time. So
yeah, this time especially, because I mean, are you going to draft the next wide receiver 4 for the Rams, or are you going to take a shot on someone that could be a starting tight end for you? Is kind of where we're at here.
Well, okay, so at the combine, I don't know if y'all saw this video. If not, I'll send it to you after the podcast. But they did the sled drill where they have to block, and the rest of the tight ends are kind of struggling to move it. They're trying to pick it up. Darnell Washington picks the whole goddamn thing up and just moves it forward. The rest of these guys are struggling, and this Godzilla of a human comes over to the sled and just picks the damn thing up and walks it away. do not envy whoever's going to have to be lined up against him because it's basically another O lineman each time you're on the line.
He's like
he's taller than most of the O linemen.
He's like the longest yard
6'8".
guy where he's like, I broke your toy.
The only thing I'd be worried about with Darnell Washington is if he turns into that blocking tight end because he does have that size. Which
he's going to go to
he'll be on the field. It
Yeah.
means he'll be on the field at the very least, so he could get some dump offs depending on what kind of roster he goes to. Like if he goes to a scramble quarterback, like that goes to the Eagles, for example, that would be great to have for a blocker and the little dump offs. So
the Eagles are for sure interested. Believe me, there's no team that couldn't use him.
There's some scouting tape on Darnell there.
That is the facts. All right, my next pick is going to be Roschon Johnson from Texas. It's a damn tragedy that Bijan Robinson was there at the same time as Roschon Johnson because we didn't get to really see the full Roschon experience. But I can tell you this, when Roschon was in there, when Bijan was getting his water on the sideline, the stats did not really fall off. He was just as competitive, just as useful. He was just as strong. Like it wasn't that big of a gap between him, and it just sucks that he had to be there at the same time as Bijan because he didn't really get to show what he could do.
Yeah, a lot of NFL teams really like that he stayed in Texas, though. Even he's a team guy. We like them.
Team guy, and also
didn't
get beat the fuck up in college, so that's always helpful. So
Yep.
I am actually excited about Roschon Johnson. I have a couple picks down. I think this is the time where defense starts going off the board when you're in Dynasty, and Drew Sanders is my pick here. I think he's going to be the first linebacker off boards in Dynasty. I don't know what's going to happen in the NFL draft. I still feel like Trenton Simpson has some weird stranglehold on the linebacker 1 and 2 positions, but Drew Sanders looks like he's going to be the number 1 linebacker, and I think you're filling a nice spot right now with Drew Sanders in this pick. So,
yeah, Drew Sanders is an absolute stud, and he's 21. So if you're getting a guy he's gonna compile stats pretty much wherever he goes. On that, I am. I'm gonna follow you up there and go Jack Campbell though. He is 23. They're similar size, similar play, but I'm just gonna grab the other promising linebacker right off the board.
Love that. Iowa's got some good people down there. Okay, I'm going to go back to the wide receiver pool. I'm going with Kayshon Boutte. So it's kind of weird because honestly, Kayshon Boutte for most people was a first-round fantasy pick for the majority of the season. Ends up having a strange season at LSU. The combine was a total train wreck for him. He was super slow, which isn't a huge detriment, but just combine that with the tape of him not necessarily being the wide receiver 1 at LSU, just kind of frustrating. And the fact that he did choose to go back to school, but there was some kind of bizarre scandal that is kind of hush-hush that people don't really want to talk about. And there's a reason that he got kind of like kicked out into the draft. I don't know. I just there's bad vibes from the Kayshon Boutte camp, and I don't want to. I don't know. Bad vibes, but still not. We're in the 3rd round. You're taking a flyer.
Speaking of flyers, I think this is the chance to potentially get your. We're back to running backs as it is. Dwayne McBride from UAB, small school, good running back at least for the school. Put the team on his back, and I think that he potentially could have a shot at being that guy in a new place. But problem is, you don't know what you're going to get. He's probably sitting on your taxi squad for a little bit, but we are mid 3rd round at this point. So I think this is the chance where you're just like, I could go defense. I could go with another wide receiver. That's, the 4th on the Rams, but I love that we used that. But Dwayne McBride, next pick.
Yeah. Josh, you said that I'm an age guy, so I'm going to go Israel Abanikanda. I can't ever say his name.
Yeah, no, 100%. Didn't even try. I actually wanted to pick him, but I was like, I'm not botching this name.
I feel like he does everything really good. I don't see anything super great on his tape, but when you're that solid in that many categories, I think you at least find your way on the field. Might not be a full-time role, but he'll be useful.
Lots of touchdowns. That's always helpful.
We like pit running backs around here, so that is a guy that we like. Okay. I'm going back to IDP, and I'm going with Nolan Smith. I think what he was doing at the combine was magical. He got hurt during the season, so he didn't really get to complete his full-out season, but Based on what he was able to do with Georgia last year, he was part of one of the best defenses ever. This year, he was part of a defense that was pretty damn close, not quite there, but pretty damn close. And what he was able to go out there and do with the combine, near perfection of a workout, just shows me that he is ready. And I think teams, like, he vaulted up boards, I think, in this last potential draft. So I'm excited to see where he goes. And I think at this level, you're able to get somebody that's going to be a contributor.
I like it, man. All I know is when I draft with you, I got to start grabbing these guys earlier.
I'm telling you, man, it's like three guys that have Micah Parsons-esque potential. Like, they, based on what they could go opportunity-wise, these are three guys that are going to get featured. They're going to get work. So I'm excited that I'm going to get an opportunity to draft one of them because, nobody's going to draft all of them, I don't think.
True. We're going back to the well with some offense here. We have 3 picks after this, by the way. So starting off, Nathaniel Dell at 33. I think that he has a chance out of Houston, kind of a small school, but 1,400 yards and 17 touchdowns is not something to smirk at. He could be the 4th quarterback or wide receiver on a team, or he could go to a team like Houston, who's still in need of 2 and 3 wide receivers. So never know what's going to happen. But at this point, I think it's worth the risk. Once we see where they go, obviously this might go up or down. So,
absolutely. I'm gonna go JL Skinner on this one.
Wow,
safety.
Like this, Joe.
Out of Boise State, I really think that watching him play, he could play a Jeremy Chin-esque. He plays in the box a lot. He's always near the line of scrimmage, and in a safety position, those guys are the ones that put up points. Kevin Bayard gets you picks. The free safeties do some stuff, but I like the guy that's getting the tackles, getting the picks, fumbles, and he's the guy in this draft class that I think is going to be in that role.
I think you're right. He was a guy at the Senior Bowl. I mean, he's tall as hell. Wouldn't hurt maybe to put on a few pounds, but at the way that he plays, I definitely could see him being a guy. Okay. Last pick, I'm going to take my favorite player, even though I don't know. It's really going to depend on draft spot whether he gets drafted up this high, but that's Jonathan Mingo. I still think he's a sleeper. Workout wasn't great. Meh. Who cares about workouts? Workouts are for nerds. I just trust and think that Jonathan Mingo is going to be one of those guys that we look back and we're like, wow, I can't believe he went that late. And I hope that he proves me right.
You guys had a great interview with him, and he does kind of look like AJ Brown. So
he plays like him, talks to him, everything. I love it.
Got to give him a chance at this point, late in the 3rd round. And I'm finishing up this 3rd round with Brian Branch. I saw another safety go off the board, and I'm not letting Brian Branch slip through me if that was my pick. So Brian Branch goes. I know that he's coveted. JL Skinner has some tangibles as well, but I see safety go, and I was like, I just need Brian Branch at this point. So
got to grab the DBs late.
Yeah, I honestly usually get safeties in the 4th and 5th round. That's usually my tight ends and safeties are like my 4th and 5th round, just dart throws. And I try to get as many picks as I can because nobody really knows who to pick in the 4th and 5th round if you're in like a couple casual leagues. So I just throw
Petrie and Brisker went in the 5th round or undrafted in most of the leagues.
Petrie, Grant, Cisco were. I think I picked all of them off a waiver wire at one point, and or got them in the 5th or 6th round. So
I always shoot myself in the foot because I was taking Brisker in like the 3rd, and then I did another draft where I was like, I'm not taking him here, and he made it all the way to the end of the 5th. I'm like, okay.
Most drafts I was in, Brisker was in about the 3rd, but we're also with a bunch of Bears fans too, so I think there's a little bit of hype.
I was driving that one hard.
And you were also driving it too. You're in most of the leagues. Actually, all the leagues.
Yep.
All right. Well, that wraps our 3-round mock draft. Some notable names that are still available if you are wanting to continue on. Marvin Mims from Oklahoma. He's been a very hot wide receiver. Zach Evans, who I had mentioned earlier. I'm not high on him, but there's a certain contingent of the fantasy base that refuses to understand that why couldn't he be the number 1 running back any of the 3 years he was in college. I don't know. Guess we'll never know because he was never the number 1 at any point. Luke Musgrave was still available, kind of a dart throw tight end. Gonna really depend on where he ends up. There's 2 quarterbacks, Jake Hayner and Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who are quarterbacks who aren't going to be drafted as starters, but probably drafted as a potential project, guys that you could see come in at some point. It'll probably take an injury to get there, but it's still names you need to know just in case. And then the defensive side, Lucas Van Ness is probably going to be a first-round pick. I don't personally love – I think this is the same disaster we had last year with the Jags. And I think that Lucas Van Ness not being a starter is more than people are trying to make it out to be. And then Felix Nduke-Uzama, who I'm a huge fan of from K-State, but he was big. You know, he's probably going to end up in the first round. But you probably get him undrafted, unfortunately, because that's just how IDP works.
I mean, there's going to be a couple names, you know, like Sam Laporta, I think is going to get a bunch of buzz generated. Hutchinson, Bryce Ford Wheaton. I think you're going to see those guys start creeping up just due to their size. And after Ford Wheaton ran at the combine, I think Billy, you've been on him for a long time, but I think we could see him really start to skyrocket up the boards.
Joe's guy, Mohamed Ibrahim, also might sneak up there. I feel like every taxi squad you have, Joe's going to have Mohamed Ibrahim on
It will, because he's been in the league or in college for like 8 years now. So
he has been. It's been waiting on him 6 years. And the craziest thing about him is like when Joe had the unfortunate text to me, "Hey, do you watching this kid?" And then blows out his Achilles. The next year he came back, he didn't look like he missed a beat. It was insane. So I don't know. Like, is he a miracle running back? Who knows? But
he's got the ligaments of AP, man.
I was gonna say all those injuries are not a great start. I don't know if you mentioned Miles Murphy either, but he's probably in the third, fourth round category. Not once again, landing spots are going to determine a lot of these and seeing different depth charts and whatnot. So, and then of course our guy Trenton Simpson, linebacker. You didn't mention him. I don't know why he's been the clear-cut number one throughout the whole time, and clear-cut I say as in that he hyped up number one linebacker. I was trying to get him to go in the first round. I don't know if it's going to happen anymore. I believe we have a fireball bet on that.
Well, it's crazy because we had a literal 3-round mock draft right here, and you still didn't take him.
I thought about it. I actually had Miles.
There was literally 36 picks of players to pick. That's a whole first round plus 5 picks.
I liked the guys I liked, man. What do you want? I only got to pick.
Fair enough. Times. I'm just saying there was 36 picks here, and he still didn't get taken.
I have my tools.
12 times.